If one could look past the flamboyance, it was apparent that the abstract expressionists were grappling with some intensely serious political and social issues. Abstract expressionism came of age at a time when the world, put simply, was a mess. The litany of what these painters had seen over the years was numbing. Depression, fascism in Europe, World War, and now Cold War. The abstract expressionists, having witnessed all of this, could not be expected to focus on the conventional. It should be plain in the second half of the 20th century, asserted Harold Rosenberg, one of the abstract expressionism's chief theorists, that painting and sculpture have been striving to become something different than pictures on the wall or forms quietly standing in a corner of a room or garden. The abstract expressionists were also following in a distinct artistic lineage, like T.S. Eliot or James Joyce, of tearing down existing artistic strictures to create something new, something bold. The abstract expressionists upended the art world. For the first time, New York City, not Paris, not Europe, became the artistic epicenter. They helped shape the spirit and culture of the times. They changed the conception of what we see and how we see it. The wide arc of their influence still reverberates today. Anyone searching for a precise, codified definition of abstract expressionism is, sadly, bound to come up short. The abstract expressionists were the most famous contingent of painters in the history of American art. They were emphatic about what art should and shouldn't be, but they were equally emphatic about not creating a concise, manifesto-driven movement with all the defined strictures that implied. They were going against the grain of the established art world. The established art world had definitions and rules. The abstract expressionists, to say the least, weren't enthralled with the rules. The very term abstract expressionism, as a matter of fact, was a label not of these painters' own choosing, but a name imposed by others. The wider art world of critics, curators, and gallery owners needed a good shorthand tagline to describe this new emerging school of painting. Action painting, or simply the New York school, came into parlance. But abstract expressionism, a phrase that had been floating around for a while and predated these particular painters, was the name that stuck. Even the precise definition of who is and isn't an abstract expressionist is sometimes up for debate. And to muddy the waters even further, there is another group of artists called the second-generation abstract expressionists, who came up slightly later in the chronology. On many levels, this vagueness of definition is the norm when it comes to new creative movements. That legendary coterie of American writers during the 1920s, for example, did not proclaim their intent to go off and create the lost generation school of literature. It was something that evolved. Likewise, the revolutionary jazz musicians who emerged after the end of World War II, musicians who, not incidentally, had a huge impact on the abstract expressionists, did not convene a meeting to announce the world that a new form of jazz called bebop was about to be launched. The nature of artistic movement stems from creative alchemy, those unique historical and cultural circumstances when the right people come together at the right time to forge something that had never been seen or heard before. The very same applies to the abstract expressionist painters. Their emergence cannot be fully explained.